I started this because I thought this would be fun, it would be good, it would be a new challenge, and I thought, I've got something to say, so I'd like to get out there and say it. Let's get into that. And then, you know, as soon as I got into that position of having the camera set up and having the sort of the lighting, I was thinking, this is great, here I am, I'm great. I had anxiety then. I was just like, I had time to think about it while I was doing all those things, and I'd sat down and I was ready to do it. I thought, oh, right, okay. And I thought, you know, had a bit of scaries there. I had anxiety. It was just like, holy shit, what am I going to say now? And what are people going to think about that? Like I care what people think. I don't. No, I don't. But the fact is that you still think, actually, you know, don't want to make a fool of myself. And actually, I've got over that now. I'm quite happy to be a fool. So outside of being a fool, the next thing is, right, the topics, because I sat down, I was ready to rock and roll. I had an idea of what I was going to say. I developed that a little bit. I thought it was all tickety-boo. I opened my mouth to say it and just thought, this is crap. I can't, you know, it's just not. And I started to then double think everything I'd done, rather than just sort of like pushing record and just getting on with it. I was thinking, oh, you know, what are people going to think about that again? Shall I use a script? Shall I not use a script? I tried to use a script, and I had a teleprompter thing. Was that any good? No, not really, because it made me sound like a piece of cardboard. Not good. Didn't give me any more confidence than basically just rambling on. So I dumped the script and went no script with bullet points. And then I found that actually and with the bullet points, what I found was that actually I was just missing stuff out. I was getting to the end of the sentence, I was getting to the end of the video, and I'd be there and I'd be thinking, well, that's all very well, but that's really skin deep. There's actually so much more to say about that. And that's not really doing the trick. So I then go back and I do it again. And I must have made some videos, and I've done 10 so far. I hope I've said that at the beginning, otherwise I'm going to have to put a bit in. But I've done 10 so far, so this is a check-in for the 10th, for the 11th video, just to let anyone know exactly why they're, you know, how I'm doing. So some of them I've done 4 or 5 times, and they're still crap. It's not that you're watching crap, I am getting incrementally better. And the more you think about the subjects, the topics, you can either go down a rabbit hole and you end up veering off somewhere else, which is, it's interesting, it's good stuff, it's great value, but it's actually not what you set out to achieve by having the heading on the video in the first place. And then you just think, oh God, this is actually quite complicated, because you have to give it quite a lot of thought. And it's not that I ever thought that this was going to be easy, and I didn't have to give it any thought. It's just that I'm kind of feeling like I'm wrapped up in wanting to say lots of things, but not particularly structured. So it's quite difficult, that. I mean, that's basically what I'm saying. If you're completely novice to this is a lot more planning involved than just basically getting out there and going so, you know, back to the logistics. There's that whole sort of, you know, lights, camera, action. There's the whole process of doing videos, which, you know, at the end of the day, very naively, I just thought I would just push the video. You know, you watch a few YouTube videos, and to a large extent, some of them are really kind of raw, but other ones aren't. And when you actually start making them, you actually realize even the ones that aren't sort of planned are still pretty well done, even if they don't look like they are. Some people obviously got a lot more talent than others. When it came to me, I was like, lights, camera, action. I got it all set up, and it was like, duh, I had nothing to say, because it was like I'd done all the logistics to begin with. Then when I actually sat down, felt kind of relaxed, I then didn't really know what to say. So it's sort of like a circle of things that are feeling uneasy, which is kind of ironic, because I've helped people in the past in my career be easy with quite stressful and anxiety sort of led, you know, situations. So I have been eating my own sauce, if you like. So I know there are some, you know, and I understand that some film stars and some people out there that refuse to, or have never seen the films that they've been in, because they can't bear the look of themselves or the sound of themselves. Now, pretty much that's me, or what certainly was. when you're having to edit it as well, you get so used to sort of looking at yourself. Well, I'm not one that looks in the mirror anyway, particularly that much. So when I was like looking at myself, it was a little bit weird because it wasn't like me, it was like someone else. And that was easier. When it became someone else, I just thought, okay, this is kind of formulaic and I'm going to do this, this and this and this, and didn't even look into it. I'm still very critical though. Because of that, it's kind of very easy to be critical because it's an honest criticism. I'm thinking this person's crap, which of course I am. I've only done 10 videos, so but each one of them I think has got incrementally better, which is the only thing that kind of keeps me going, is because I'm putting one foot in front of the other, or I'm putting one brick on top of the next to build the skyscraper. And yeah, so I'm crap on the first 10. Each one's getting better. Maybe when I get to 100, I'll be less crap, definitely. Hopefully a lot better. I think getting used to being self-critical when you know you're really bad, that's quite hard because I haven't actually come across that for a long time. I've never had that sort of put in front of me. And okay, I think everyone at some point has a sort of, you failed at this, you maybe failed a driving test, or you haven't got promoted, or whatever it is. There are lots of these little milestones in your life which are sort of signals to rethink who you are. This is one I haven't come across for an awful long time. It's just very difficult. It seriously is, because as soon as you open your mouth, you do about 3 words. Because you're not used to talking to basically a square thing, it just freezes up and I become like dumb as. So the key thing is I have got something to say. I'm no spring chicken. I've helped people in real life. I've got a good track record. There isn't any problem with that. But getting on this thing, getting on actually sort of going out there and doing it is so against the grain. It's unbelievable. So before I even started this, I had a major challenge to overcome, because this wasn't like LinkedIn or other platforms where you kind of you're faceless, you're behind some sort of professional persona. This is raw. This is like, I mean, here I am. I'm at home. You're seeing me in my real life environment. I mean, I don't live in this field, but I live just it adjoins my house. But it's a different platform, it's a different phenomenon, and it's a real pretty difficult thing to actually overcome, because I'm not used to getting up on stage. I'm quite an introvert. Yeah, whoa, I mean, talk about being out of my comfort zone and out of my depth. I had no idea. But anyway, I started this because I thought this would be fun, it would be good, it would be a new challenge, and I thought, I've got something to say, so I'd like to get out there and say it. So the first thing is, it goes so against the grain. It just feels like exhibitionism. It feels like you're dancing around on stage, you're doing your sort of song and dance act. And if you're not that kind of person, I'm really not that kind of person, that feels really uncomfortable. So the way in which I think the reason for that is because I wasn't brought up to jump out in the crowd, and I was brought up to be, relatively quiet unless you had something to say. And whatever you had to say, you said it, you had grace and demeanour. You didn't jump around making the silly faces and whatever else you see on YouTube. So that's a little bit, that's very different to what I'm used to. I'm not really out there. I'm not really a sort of bragging type of person. I don't really blow my own trumpet an awful lot. And I'm certainly not a look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. A lot of people out there that are like that. That's not me. So that was a big hill to climb, and I hope I'm doing okay in that. It certainly was the biggest issue that I had. So once I'd covered the doubt and the despair, and I'd continued to make the same videos over and over and over again, I realised that the change wasn't going to happen as quickly as I had hoped. Part of that is because I'm very self-critical. The key to this is that I had to remind myself that Rome wasn't built in a day. So what I had to do at that point was I had to call on my own experience. This is a very odd one because I coach and mentor and help people in, you know, in my professional life, and it's one of those things which I don't think I'd really put into my own life. A great example of not putting yourself in someone else's shoes, having said the same things for so many years and helped so many different people, sort of became quite blasé about the reality of what that must feel like. And here I am in a situation completely out of my comfort zone, basically needing to go right back to the basics of the basics. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm not sure what that was, but hopefully not preparing for the Russians. So what that meant was I had to accept that although I have skills over there, skills and experience over there, actually over here I had zero. And accepting that made it a lot easier because I was basically a novice. I am a novice. I know nothing about this, and it's crap, and that's okay. I don't mind it being crap because actually it was unrealistic and delusional of me to think that it wasn't crap. I mean, what did I think? That I was going to suddenly become, you know, some kind of, that it was going to be easy. Of course it wasn't. So the reality is that now I've got used to that, taking one step in front of the other, and that's okay. So I'm congratulating myself for being crap. That's excellent. The thing is, the main thing to remember, I'm a little bit less crap than I was last time I did this. Look. Fucking stupid dog. Where is it? There. Like he's going to get... Is he really thinking he's going to get it? I don't think so. Not in a month of Sundays. Anyway, it's a slight break. So the first lesson there from myself, it's a lot of self-learning this actually, really, more than anything else, because as long as you believe that you can do it, which I do, I mean, there's nothing I've ever come across before that I haven't given a go at, and if you really want something, you'll make it work. So this would be quite low on my scale. If I was to completely fail on this, I would not be happy, because there are other people out there I can see who've done it, and I'm sure that I'm better than them, and there are other people out there that who've done it that are, you know, significantly better. But this is a platform which, you know, is quite forgiving, and that, I think, is the beauty of a lot of things in life, is that, you know, you don't have to be excellent, and in fact people will always be excellent. It's like the whole sort of it's like the whole Instagram thing where everyone pretends to sort of have a private plane or whatever. I mean, it just sets people up for feeling, you know, like they haven't achieved it, they're not achieving. I mean, that's just rubbish. So, you know, here I am. So the third thing is, you know, really actually just needed to learn how it works, rather than thinking actually get the camera out and do that, which is great. Yeah, push record, get on with it. The actual basics for why I was feeling doubt and lack of confidence wasn't actually really entirely about that. It was about the fact I just honestly didn't know what I was doing. This was way out of my comfort zone. You know, this is like, you know, thinking, because I can drive a car, I could fly a plane or something like that. It's, you know, it's very different. So actually getting out of that and thinking, you know, I want to have fun doing it. Of course I do. Everyone wants to have fun doing it, but also the practicality of learning new stuff in the quantity and the speed you've got to do it. Because the repetitions, you need the repetitions, because if you learn something and you don't repeat it constantly or enough times, you just forget it, and then it takes you 10 times longer to remember it. So when I've learned something, I've had to go over and do it, put it into practical terms and actually do it, which is why I suppose the 10 videos I did on the 10 retakes of some of the videos I did, it wasn't wasted time. It was frustrating because I didn't get it right the first time. Clearly, if you look at them, you see that I didn't get it right even on the 10th time. But each time I did it, I did get a bit better. So if you'd have seen the first ones, or if you could see the first ones, they would probably just be, I mean, shamefully crap, really bad. So, you know, I want to do this because it's a bit of fun. I've got something to say. I'm not doing it because I need some sort of ego massaging. I'm doing it because I want to have a bit of fun doing it. And I also want to succeed on something. I mean, initially I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. Then when I realised it was a bit of a challenge, I thought, no, I'm going to really give this a go. Probably completely bonkers because I should be doing other things, but actually I get great pleasure out of doing things that I can't do. And then when I do learn how to do them, I think, actually, yeah, that is excellent because, you know, I've learned something. That's great. Now, the second thing in this point is that this is very time consuming. I've just sort of covered that. It's very, very time consuming because the sheer amount of knowledge you have to pick up, and each time you pick up a bit of knowledge, you think, yeah, I've learned that, but then you realize there's more to learn, and there's more stuff to learn, and there's sort of, you know, it just snowballs. And when you see these people that have been doing 5-10 years, I mean, seriously, they have just immense amounts of knowledge on loads and loads of stuff, because it also is a constant moving target. What these platforms did last year, what they're doing today is very different. So it's not an easy task it's not set and forget. There are many people out there who've got jobs and they're pretty useless at everything because they learned something in the first few years of their role. They've been there for 20 years and they do the same thing over and over and over again. This is not that. This is constantly starting like a new job. Every day is like starting a new job. And okay, I've only done 10 videos, but from looking and talking to other people that have done this, this is like this is quite high volume and fast pace, because it isn't just the basics. It's not really, you know, going back to the basics of the basics. The real basics are you've got to set up an account. So not just a YouTube account, but you've got to set up. You've got to get the editing stuff. You've got to get all the lighting, the different apps, and all that kind of crap. You don't necessarily need. You can just push go, but there are these sort of learning curves. You're not just going to push go for the rest of your life. You're going to actually, you know, do some things, and then you've got to, and then on top of that, so that's basically the nuts and bolts. That's the sort of hardware, if you like, hardware and the software. And then there's the other side of it, is that, you know, if you're going to do it, are you doing it for, you know, if you're just going to do it for fun, then it's a hobby. And if it's not a hobby, then it has a commercial element to it. So if there's a commercial element to it and you're providing value somehow, how are you going to monetize that? You know, why shouldn't you monetize that? And then there's that sort of, you know, question, why shouldn't you monetize that? If you have value and you can help people, there is an awful lot of doing this in the first place, which is giving away info free, giving away an awful lot of value. But if you want to go to the second layer, you want to go to the behind the curtain stuff, then how are you going to do that? Because actually someone does have to pay at some point for some time. So, you know, you have to think about that. Then you have to think about, well, you know, am I consistently going to be providing the same type of things to the same type of people, or is that going to evolve? Because it's not the easiest thing to continuously talk about that subject without like a prompt. And right now, and I don't mean a prompt as in a GPT type of prompt, but a prompt as in someone sort of asking you a question. As people become more experienced in this, it's clear that the comments and the suggestions and the whatever provide that sort of prompt. It's a direction in which people sort of generally meander off in. Before you've got that, and I don't think I've had any comments so far, there's just like me in the blue out in the blue yonder, thinking, well, what am I going to talk about next? What's interesting? Then trying to find something that's interesting, trying to have a look at the other videos out there that are relatively aligned, that could be a subject that is interesting, and thinking, you know, can I add anything more to that? Some of them are quite good, but some of them, like I mentioned earlier, some of them sort of, you know, have big gaps in them. And although they're informative, you know, if you were to sort of take it as gospel, that was the sort of A to Z of information on that subject, then that would just be, it just wouldn't be very good. So I think, you know, oh, can I add something to that? And then it gets back to the complicated learning, you know, making scripts about that, making sure you cover not only the bits you need to cover, but the bits that, you know, omit the bits you don't. So it's quite complicated. So I think I've been uploading about 3 videos a week. So I've been doing this about 3 weeks. So what does that make me feel? Basically, my head is fried. Mental capacity overload, basically. I wake up in the night thinking about it. I'm thinking about it pretty much, or doing something about it, from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to sleep, stressing me to some extent. Fun on the other side. The one thing that's absolutely 100% certain, there is not enough hours in the day for where I want to, for my kind of, you know, my willingness to absorb information and progress. I find that a week has gone past and I've done another video, or done another 2 or 3 or whatever. I haven't moved as fast as I want to because I'm watching videos, I'm doing everything. So basically, there's not enough time in the day for everything you need to sort of get in there, because this is you're learning on the job. It's not like doing a degree or doing, you know, some sort of job where you can knock off at 5 o'clock and go down the pub. It's seriously like, you know, it's a fast-paced environment. So pushing continuously. You know, there is this niggling thing in the back of my head that I really could do with a break. I could do with a lie down. Well, that sounds like I need to go to bed, but no, I don't mean that. I mean sort of mentally, sort of, you know. So I've come here into the field because it's not in the same environment that I've been in for those weeks, in front of the computers and doing whatever. I'm just having a bit of a break. Been a good distraction there. Saw a lovely deer and the dog. God knows where he's gone. It's probably 10 miles away now. So this is the nearest I get to a break. I've got to a break for a while. So, you know, comments. Anyone else feel like this? You know, am I the only one? Because if I am, that's like proper doom. If I'm not, then that would make me feel a lot better if there are other people out there. My guess is there are other people out there, so leave a comment. You know, if you're feeling a little bit like me, leave a comment, let me know how you're feeling. I don't care if you want to leave a comment going, you're crap, you know, because how am I doing, basically? How am I doing? If I'm really totally rubbish, then I need to step it up a bit. It's not going to stop me. It just means that, you know, you can't get forward without having a bit of honest criticism. And actually, no one's probably more critical than me. So, you know, leave me a comment, even just a thumbs up. So you could like the video, but literally only just a thumbs up in the comments is enough. If you can't be bothered to type anything, you'll give me some hope. So as a final point, I'm going to go back to your regular scheduled content for the next videos. What I'll do is I'll probably do 10 more in the regular content, which I hope will help anyone that's actually interested in that sort of thing. I mean, it's picking up reasonable views. I mean, not in terms of real YouTubers, but in terms of someone that expected 0 views, it's got some views and a few likes and whatever else, I think. Yeah, I think it's got a few likes. And I picked up a few subscribers, which is just, you know, that's great. Thank you for that, guys, girls. That's given me boost. And I'll see you, yeah, I could do another one of these sort of catch-ups in about 10 more, roughly 10 more, see where I'm going at that point. Hopefully I'll be a few steps ahead, or a few bricks in the wall further ahead. Hope this was great. I hope this was entertaining, at least, if nothing else. If you're in the same boat as me, then keep on going, because you're learning something every day, and well done. You know, especially if you got to the end of this video, because as you've seen from one of my other videos, your attention span is kind of like average is about 7 seconds or something like that. And yeah, the dog's back. Great. See you soon.